Hello, thank you for stopping by. My name is Becky and this is BecxReadz, and today I am going to chat with you about why I like spoilers. If you are somebody who absolutely hates spoilers, you think that people who spoil the plot points and shit of books are the worst people on the planet, you're not gonna like this video. So just pop off, because I'm gonna spoil some shit, and I'm gonna talk about why I personally love spoilers. And I'm not gonna try and give a, other viewpoint of why spoilers are bad. No. This is just my opinion and why I like spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled for any of these books, bye. If you're still here, that means you must not care about spoiler warnings, or you like spoilers like me. So welcome, you're my kind of people. I'm sure you know what a spoiler is, but I'm just going to put it out there for the people who don't. A spoiler is pretty much when somebody reads a book and they talk about the plot points, the twists, the ending, the relationship dynamics, and mention it to people who haven't already read that book. And they're like ruining the enjoyment of the book for those people. I don't understand it, but that's the gist of spoilers, and why people don't like spoilers is because they're like ruining the entertainment of discovering those things for the first time for themselves. Sure, I'm somebody who not only likes spoilers, I seek them out, because there are some times when I've seen popular books and they are so hyped up, right? But I'm just not sure that I want to read them. So to use an example, I'm about to spoil ACOTAR for people, okay? I did not want to read this series because it involved fae. That was the extent of my knowledge of this series. I was faecist, if you will. I did not want to read them because my only experience with fae has been this little Tinkerbell shit, and why do I want to read a story about this tiny little Tinkerbell girl? She's not sexy. These little things aren't sexy. Like, I couldn't understand. One day I decided, okay, I'm gonna give it a try. And I read it, and the minute the word fae appeared, nope, DNF'd it. I was like, I'm not reading a book about fae. A couple years ago, people were just popping off about this book again, and they were like, oh, it's so good, blah, blah, blah. The second book is even better. I'm like, what the fuck is the deal with this book? So I went on to Instagram, and I searched up, like, ACOTAR, and I saw fan art, okay? Fan art of this man. And then I looked, and people were saying, oh, this is Rhysand. And I'm like, that's what the fae look like? They look like this? So I was like, okay, now I'm interested. And so I messaged one of my friends. I'm like, what is this about? And they're like, oh, we can't tell you, that's a spoiler. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm like, fine, I'll do it myself. So I went and I watched spoiler reviews of every single book in the ACOTAR series. Up until that point, it was like ACOWAR. Totally seeked them out, okay? So I knew that she was going to end up with Rhysand, that they were going to be mates. I knew that. So knowing the spoiler made me want to read the series. And once I read book 2, I was like, I get it. I get it now. Yep, and I became obsessed. So knowing that spoiler made me fall in love with this series. So once I enjoyed that series, I'm like, okay, I'm going to try Throne of Glass next. So I read the first book. No idea. Didn't look up spoilers, didn't look up fan art, nothing. I just picked up Throne of Glass and I read it. Again, I was like, I don't understand the hype. This is not good. So once again, I go to Instagram and I search for reviews, and I see fan art of this man and this chick, and I read it, and they're like Aelin and Rowen. I'm like, who the fuck are Aelin and Rowen? So I go and I asked my friend again. I'm like, when did these two make an appearance? Because he's hot and I want to read about him. And she, once again, she's like, I can't tell you the dynamics because it would spoil you. And I'm like, oh my God, would you just spoil me and tell me what this is about? And she's like, no, I can't. I'm like, Jesus Christ. So once again, I go to YouTube and I look at spoiler reviews. I watched spoiler reviews of every single book in this series because all the books were out. Watched people, whole vlogs of where people spoiled everything. And I found out that Rowen was not in book 2. He did not show up until book 3. And I got the whole gist of how Rowen and Aelin, and who Aelin is Selena and all that jazz, and their mates and whatnot. And I'm like, I want to read about them. So I totally skipped book 2. I'm like, I'm not reading that shit because Rowen ain't in it, and I'm interested in Rowen. So I skipped book 2. I read all of the books 3 and up. I skipped Kale's book because I was like, he ain't in that one either, so I don't give a shit. I also didn't read the first book, The Assassin's Blade, because he wasn't in that either, so I didn't care. I was here for Rowen and Aelin. When I say I enjoyed this series, I enjoyed the books that I read. I don't feel like I missed out on anything by not reading the 3 books that I didn't read, because I watched spoiler reviews, I got the gist of it, I got the plot points, I spoiled everything for myself, I understand what's happening and all that. So I don't feel like I missed anything. People don't understand how I could do that, how I could skip books in a series and still enjoy the series, because I was here for Rowen. That was it. So once again, I would not have read these books had I not seen spoiler fan art and then watched spoiler reviews of this series, because I did not like the first book, and I haven't even read the second book, so I wouldn't have read that, so I wouldn't have continued. But spoilers made that possible for me. So then I go on to the 3rd series, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to spoil myself at all. I'm going to read all of the books in this Crescent City series. I read the first book, again, 3 stars. It was fine. I didn't care really about it. But I picked up book 2, right? I DNF'd book 2, 200 pages in, because I was so freaking bored. I did not care about the characters or whatever. But I went once again, and I was like, okay, I want to see how this ends. So I went and I watched spoiler review once again, and I'm pretty sure it was actually Becca in the books. I think it was her spoiler vlog review that I watched. And she was getting to the end of it, and she mentioned Azriel and Rhysand. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Back the train up. Say what? I was like, Azriel and Rhysand? They come in at the end of this book? I was like, okay. So I just skipped to the end of the book, read the last 10 chapters, and got what I wanted from it. And that was the part of the book I enjoyed. I won't read the 3rd book until I go and watch many spoiler reviews of the 3rd book to see what happens in it and see if it's something that I'm interested in. Spoilers save me money. They save me time. And they make me more excited to read a book. Spoilers for me are not the equivalent of like, oh, there's a traffic backup for 5 miles. I'm going to take a different route. No. Spoilers to me are like, I have to pee and there's a rest stop in 5 miles. Hopefully they have bathrooms. That's it to me. I look forward to them. I'm anticipating it. I hope that those spoilers make me want to read the book. Now, some spoilers I seeked out that didn't make me want to read the book. This book right here. I had full intentions of reading this book, okay? Because it was a fantasy romance and everybody was jazzing it up. And I was like, yes, I'm on this fantasy romance train. I'm loving it. And then I never got around to reading it. And so when, I don't know what book it was, but it was the book where like the love triangle, the threesome happened or something like that. I don't know. And people were talking about that. Once again, I sought those things out because I didn't mind them. And they were talking about that. And I'm like, I don't want to commit myself to a book for there to end up being like a love triangle threesome situation. Because if I spend all my time like getting attached to a couple, as in 2 people, I don't want that to suddenly change in the book somewhere. I don't. I'm not going to enjoy that. So people were pretty vague about that. So once again, I went to my friend Kristen and I'm like, can you tell me exactly what happens in this book so I can determine if it's something I want to spend my time on? And at this point, I think she finally clued into the fact that I like spoilers. She was like, okay, here is exactly what happens, the relationship dynamic, why people don't like it, why some people do. She actually didn't mind it. And I was like, okay, I don't want to read that. So this saved me from reading this book and investing my time and getting attached to characters and then having that thrown at me. And I was like, no, good. Give me spoilers. I don't need spoiler warnings on things, because if you put a spoiler warning, I'm just going to ignore it anyway. It's like, oh, spoiler coming in 5 seconds. I'm like, nah, I'm going to sit here and watch it because I want to be spoiled. My personal opinion, this is how I feel. If knowing a small portion of a book, the twist, the relationship dynamics, the oh my god moment, if knowing that one little thing is going to ruin your enjoyment of a story, what is all this shit for? If this one little moment, knowing it, is going to ruin a story, then the rest of that story must be shit. Because how can knowing this one little segment affect the emotions, the ride, the journey to get to that one little moment? It's like, does none of that matter? I don't understand it when people are like, oh, it's gonna ruin it for me. How? You have an 800-page book and just knowing like what happens in like a paragraph is gonna ruin your enjoyment? I don't get it. My brain is not wired like that, because I'm like, knowing something makes me more excited for it. I need somebody to do a study on this, because I personally think this correlates to the fact that I don't like surprises and I'm not a spontaneous person. I think there's a connection there. It still impacts me, but I know that it's coming and I can look forward to it. I don't know. Now, that's not to say that I look up spoilers for every single book I read, because I don't. But if there's books that I'm questioning, am I going to enjoy this? I don't think I've ever come across a spoiler warning that I skipped. Even if it's a book that I'm genuinely interested in reading, if there's a spoiler, I end up just watching it anyway, because what they tell me usually isn't that big of a deal anyway. It's just, I feel like people put in spoiler warnings because you never know what somebody considers a spoiler. That's what I do myself sometimes in my vlogs and stuff, and sometimes even in my reviews or whatnot. I don't know if what I'm saying is a spoiler, because I don't consider it a spoiler, but I feel like other people might, and so I just put it up there just to be on the safe side so people can't be like, oh my god, you spoiled this for me. So that was my rambly thoughts on spoilers and spoiler warnings and why I like them and why I seek them out. Let me know down in the comments. Obviously you watched this video. Let me know your opinions on them. Either way, I would like to hear your thoughts. But if you don't want to comment that, but would like to let me know that you made it to the end of this video, could you give me a little caution sign emoji, please? And until my next video, thank you so much for watching, and go watch some spoiler reviews. Bye!